Welcome back to the Red Sector, a podcast about speedy motorbikes. I am your host, Matt Plansky. With me, as always, are my co-hosts, Josh Wilson, Bunno GP. Couple quick housekeeping notes. Please be sure to follow and subscribe. And I said that in the wrong order. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Leave a 5-star rating review if you can. It really does help. So, Josh, how you doing today?
I'm great, very excited for obviously what you're about to say. So, yeah, just ready to crack on. You know, it's kind of the mid-season break, so it's been a bit kind of lackluster at the moment in terms of news and energy and pace. But I think we're bringing it back tonight, so it's all good.
Yeah, how about you, Bunno?
Yeah, I'm good. Same as Josh. I'm just, the floor is yours, Matt. Move on from me.
So, we are very excited tonight to have our first ever guest. You know this person from their play-by-play work during the Moto2, Moto3 practice sessions, Red Bull rookie races. He is one part of the Last on the Brakes podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Dunn!
Thank you so much. Do you know what? I don't think I'm ever going to get a better intro than that in my entire life. I probably need to actually, if I were to ever do something again, I'd hire you to do it just like that. Because then people would actually think I'm some kind of a big deal, maybe.
Oh, to us, you are.
No, I'm very honored to be your first guest. So thanks for asking me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So, before we get to some of the interview questions, we're going to turn the tables on you and ask you some quick fire questions.
Oh, great. Awesome. I'm not prepared for that at all. All right. Sweet.
So we have a couple. Some of them are a little jokier than others. I'll start. Josh will go second, and then Bunno third.
Sure.
So first question, kind of maybe an easy one. 4 wheels or 2 wheels?
2.
2?
Yep, straight away. No questions asked. Always has been, always will be.
Not even an explanation.
Yeah.
Nope. No explanation needed.
No. I respect. By the way, I'm happy to. I really enjoyed F1 at the weekend, Silverstone. I don't know when this is going to come out, but if it's fairly recent to that, F1 at Silverstone was fantastic racing.
I am severely pissed.
Yeah, I bet. Wearing the Red Bull shirt there. So yeah, I mean, just great racing. So, but bikes always has been, always will be.
Yeah. So
Right,
Josh?
so for me, it's Grand Touring or Purpose Built. Which do you prefer?
I've never watched either, but it would. I guess I would say I've got to be honest. I don't know what Purpose Built is.
Well,
go with
MotoGP is MotoGP is Purpose Built. World Superbike would be Grand Touring.
Oh, okay.
So you mean more prototype or stock kind of thing?
Pretty much.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant TV shows. I thought you meant Grand Tour, the Grand Tour of the Amazon show. Oh no. Oh
yeah,
well.
I'm just reading the quick fire questions. So
oh, do you know what? Grand Tour, the World Superbike option, Grand Tour for me. That's it. My first love is is like superbike racing and production machinery. So I love Grand Prix and prototype machinery, but my first love was out of the factory.
Nice.
Okay. So mine is more dependent on either which era you grew up or whether you enjoy more so the era you're working in now. So mine would be Moto3 or 125s. So obviously you got that
Moto3 in general. Moto3 in general. The 2-stroke thing, I grew up I was born in 1994, so out of that era is not mine. I'm not one of the people who's pines for the 2 strokes back. I don't really care. I'll just get me some really fast engines, efficient engines, the best of the best that they can produce right now. If that were to be 2 strokes, fantastic. But as it's not right now, then I don't really care. But Moto3 lately, Moto3, I definitely prefer over 125s. But lately it's been a bit too scary. So maybe if it continued in that sort of way, by the end of the season, I might be saying to you, bring back 125s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So next one, Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't drink fizzy drinks in general. But yeah, I never really liked Coke. Coke wasn't my thing. But Pepsi, I do like a cold Pepsi out of a can.
Okay.
Interesting. Next one is 2-stroke or 4-stroke?
Indifferent. I gotta say, like I love the
Yeah.
sound of a two-stroke. I've been to Goodwood Festival of Speed a few times. Love it, absolutely amazing. But at the same
Smell
time,
of a two-stroke as well.
yeah, at the same time, if you send a four-stroke bike down the straight of a Jello over that crest, I'm so happy.
Yeah. So my next one is basically on from the previous one being Moto 2 or 250s.
Do you know what?
Because they're a lot,
I
they're a lot
probably,
more different than 125 or Moto 3. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's a bigger gap.
because the category as well and like the actual style of racing, I prefer 250s.
Mhm.
But Moto 2, like Moto 2 is actually probably one of my is. Do you know what? I reckon I would say I care more about Moto 2 than I care about any other class. Um,
Hmm.
I'm more invested in it just because the stories up and down the grid. It's rarely ever the most exciting racing in terms of down to the flag. But like I was looking through the championship standings before I came on, and like every single rider on there has just got a fascinating story of their own struggles they're going through, and I genuinely care about all of
Yeah.
them. So I love Moto 2, but I do prefer just down to the notion of just the race itself, 250s.
Okay. So this next one is a play on a question you asked on last on the breaks.
Okay.
You asked coffee or tea. I
Mm.
asked iced or hot.
Hot. Hot, gotta be. Because
Ooh.
I live off coffee. I have like 3 or 4 a day. My other half bought me a milk foamer as well, which has just changed my life. So yeah, the milkman brings the milk. I put it in the milk foamer and make myself like a even though
Wow.
it's just instant coffee, just a like a cafe style coffee there with instant, and it's like, oh my god, I feel so prestigious.
Next one from me is this is quite an interesting one actually. Inline 4 or V4?
Oh.
Quite a tough
V4,
one.
V4, V4, because I prefer the sound. I prefer
Yeah.
the sound of it, yeah, for sure.
Wasn't so tough after all.
But depends what you ask.
Fi-
Yeah.
500cc or 1000cc, so effectively the 500s or modern day.
Yeah, I mean, let's say 1000cc. I mean, just look at the lap times, what they're doing now. Like that's what I'm
Mhm.
most passionate about. If one of the questions is, are we in the golden era? Yeah, we are. Machinery and riders.
Okay. And I think this is the most important. Orange sectors or red sectors?
Red sectors, obviously. Where are we talking
Damn
about?
straight.
Hey.
Who chose the name?
That was
Who-
me actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Nice.
don't know. It was just one of them kind of brainwaves I had when watching it.
hmm
I was thinking, oh, what could be a podcast name? And I think it was qualifying, and I saw that probably Quartararo doing some red sectors, and I thought that's a good name for a podcast actually.
Yeah.
Red sector. That's really good.
Fair play to you because like with F1 and things like that, I've played a hand in naming a lot of different series and things on MotoGP over the last like 5 years,
Hmm.
and it's getting harder and harder and harder to actually
Yeah.
name things because F1's got it and things like this. Like we started
Yeah.
doing a thing called the
Right.
Inside Line this year. Like I've not done any since because of time restraints and things like that to like promote the Last and the Breaks podcast. Bloody Sky F1. Sky F1's
Yeah.
been doing a show called The Inside Line as well. I'm like, you what? So yeah,
You've-
it's
You've
difficult
got
to get different names.
Yeah. It is. As soon as I came up with it, I kind of Googled it and to see if there was any podcasts, and luckily
Yeah.
I couldn't find one. And I thought I've got to take advantage of this. Really,
Mhm.
Well, it's not going to be F1 because there's purple in it. So
Yeah, they're
yeah, that's
purple.
purple.
Yeah.
But for MotoGP, I thought if there's one called Red Sector already, I'll be kicking myself. But
nailed
luckily
it.
there wasn't.
Buy a domain like for £6. So if
Yes,
someone
I'll
tries
need
to buy it
Yeah.
off you, if someone tries to buy it off you, you can go, yeah, sure. Yeah, £600, please. Thank you.
Yeah, the other name option I came up with was the High Side Podcast.
But everybody's going to say something like high side or something, aren't they? Or
Mhm.
the low side and that, aren't they? Eh? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like fuck, someone's done it already, bastards.
Yeah.
But the
It's a
main
little
thing
bit
is
like
if you're the
Definitely.
best.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
It's in
exactly.
terms of names though, it's like the small documentaries that they did for like different GP riders, like the off the racing line. Do you remember like they did with like Miguel and Jack and people like that?
Yeah.
It's like coming up with a name for that is like what's already not been done that you cannot sound too generic, but not too.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
Yeah, you got to be catchy and things like that. I think it's quite difficult. I can't remember who named those because I wasn't a part of like the production or anything like that. But they always ask the Brits like, could you help with us naming this, please? And so normally I have a say that I can't remember about that one, but yeah, Off the Racing Line's quite a generic one. It's a good one. Flows off the tongue well, but yeah, naming stuff's hard, like. But as I say, all that matters is if you're the best. So
That's true.
Yeah. So
quickly going back to the 500cc/1000cc question.
sure.
One thing I did have, another question I did have is your favorite era. I can imagine it probably will be 1000cc. I'll throw mine out there simply because I was born in 1994, same as you, so we're probably roughly the same age, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I guess my first introduction was it the 800cc era. So who was that? When did that come in? Was that 2000?
800 have been 2007.
Yeah.
2007.
Now, for me personally, I love the new 1000cc era. Like, it's probably fastly become my favorite, but maybe due to nostalgia, a bit. For me, the 800 has something about it. You know, with the Lorenzo Rossi battles, with the likes of Stoner on the scene and stuff like that. But I wondered your take on it. Why, if 1000cc is your favorite, you've kind of already explained it, but if you wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, I think what it is right now is like, yeah, it's the accumulation, how it's all just become so much closer. That is why this era is sort of kind of my favorite. I think if I was looking at retrospectively, nostalgically, for me, I started watching MotoGP in the early 2000s, so I didn't pay that much attention. To be fair, I think one of the first races I actually remember properly watching was Barcelona 2009. And
Oh yeah.
so obviously I'd say 100cc, one of the greatest races, yeah, of all time, right? I remember screaming on the sofa watching it, like couldn't believe it, etc. But I did like the 990s. If I was thinking of like a golden era for me in things that I've seen in my lifetime, rather than I'm not one of those people who, even though I was born in '94, I'll go and watch the 500s in the '80s and go, oh, that's the best, and it's like, no, you weren't even alive. You weren't. I think you need to sort of be present to fully
Those were the
understand
days,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't think it would be in my place to look back then and be like, oh, that's my favorite. That's the best era there ever was. Because like, I wasn't around at that time. I wasn't around the culture. I didn't understand it. I think that's sort of kind of weird. But there aren't too many people who say things like that, anyways. But in terms of ones that I've experienced, the early 2000s, because the early to mid 2000s and the 990s was the best in motorcycle racing history there was. It was the peak, I think, of bike racing.
Yeah.
Superbikes was starting to go on the downer, like from about 2004 onwards, but still like the 2001, 2, 3 of Superbikes was amazing. British Superbikes as well. They still had wild cards in World Superbikes for actually doing something, and like just felt like the world really gave a shit about motorbike racing, and that was super cool. So yeah, that for me would be like my favorite era. But thousands now, yeah, like come on, how close are they all coming across the line in Qatar? Like, does it get any better? No.
Yeah. So in the intro, we gave a couple explanations or a couple examples of what you do in MotoGP. What else do you do? Because like I know some of the YouTube videos, like I saw the one where who was it? Sam Lowe's and DG were on at Saxon Ring together. I saw you in the intro of that. What else do you do in the paddock?
So my like first job for like MotoGP in general was social media editor. So I did the tweeting, the posting. I just basically posted everything to the social media channels: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And then that was all me in my first year, 2016. 2017, got somebody else on board to do with that. And then 2018, the team expanded and I got the position in commentary when there was a reshuffle after Nick Harris retired and that. But the ambition was my heart sort of in social media and sort of being able to promote the sport in the most effective means of communication possible, which it happens to be social media and digital content. So that's the thing I'm most passionate about. That's always the thing which I try to, even though I've been going more towards commentary, I've always been trying to like cling on to that. And so my first year, I would go and do what was it called? It was like a video. So I tried to step into producing more digital content on site. So I was doing like the Instagram stories from on site. I still do a couple of those now, but very much less this year because everything else that's been going on, COVID restrictions, less people on site. I had to sort of say with certain things like I'm not doing that because otherwise I'm just going to be getting in a whirlwind and not getting out of it. But I still do some. I take some photos for the Instagram stories on Wallpaper Wednesday. But those this year, for example, yeah, I do the production of. I sort of coordinate, send emails to the teams to coordinate pass the mic, and then also the show they do with that. I remember when. So that's what you saw with Sam Lowe's and DJ on the YouTube channel. I then coordinate with the cameraman because the social media digital content team has two cameramen on a Thursday just for us, and then one for the rest of the weekend. So I do his timetable, coordinate with the video production managers what they want to record throughout the weekend. So those long form mini documentaries you see that are coming out now, like Jack Miller's Seller Redemption, the Marc Marquez one. I'm the one who says to the cameraman, right here, this session you go here, this session you go there, blah 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 blah. It sounds more complicated than it is sometimes. Sometimes it's so straightforward. I just have to like copy paste the message that I said the day before. But yeah, that's the sort of thing I do there. Then organizing the podcast, like sending emails to the press officers to ask that. Me and Fran talk together about organizing it, the interview questions. Then we share the promotional aspect of it. So we go through, transcribe the episode, pick the key bits out. What do we want as an article on MotoGP.com? What do we want as an extract on the Instagram feed and things like that? So yeah, a fair amount. I mean, this year's been a lot more commentary. I wasn't expecting to be doing Red Bull Rookies this year, but then their usual commentator got stuck out in New Zealand, and so couldn't make it. And then so I took that on too, and with that, it's an extra series, extra level of knowledge, extra research. I was like, right, I'm gonna calm down a lot of the other things I'm doing. So now I mainly just do the Pass the Mic podcast on the Thursday. I sort the What Really Happens When. I coordinate that too. And what else do I do? Like MotoE live previews, all that kind of jazz, basically.
So basically, what don't you do should have been
Yeah.
the question.
That's what you should have asked.
No, to be fair, there's so much going on all the time. Like there's so many things. Like the amount of content. If I'm really honest, it's probably too much content. I don't know. Like if I was at the helm, I wouldn't do as much. But for just personal reasons, just how I do it, we have a different thing. But the results that that get produced because of it, the analytics, the revenue that you get from producing various series and things like that, and all this different content, like is absolutely justifiable, and we all have to work as hard as possible. But yeah, it's so much going on, and it's not just I'm involved in quite a lot of things, but man, there's like for me, there's then 5 other people there and 10 other people there. Like the social media team's got like 18 people in it now, I think. If you think about all the people who directly work on the social media team across Telegram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, what other social media, even Snapchat and stuff like that, like to cover all those, to actually have that, you can't just have one person per platform. In that it's like just a whole massive tree. So I do a lot, but there's also a hell of a lot of other people doing way more than I do, way longer days.
Yeah, social media is relentless, isn't it? It's a relentless beast that never stops, especially if you look at the rise of TikTok over the last couple of years and lockdown, and how huge that has been for exposure and brands and people jumping on that. And it's just it's something you can't no big company, whether it be F1 or MotoGP or people like that, they can't just rest on the laurels with social media. They've got to keep pushing. They've got to keep innovating and moving forward and things like that.
I think when I say like if it was up to me at the helm, I wouldn't do as much. I think it's because I look at it from just a personal point of view of like if I was an individual like you guys are individual creators in the MotoGP space. If I was like you, I wouldn't be trying to spread myself completely thinly across all platforms because you are 3 people. But whereas when you do have these teams, one team there, one team there, team there, team there, team there, actually you actually can do that sort of thing. And as a brand, you have to do that sort of thing to stay relevant. You can never post enough content, put it that way.
No.
Yeah, totally agree. I suppose on from that, then my question from what you've just been on about would be more so like, what made you get into the paddock? Like, what was it that you obviously you're a big fan of the sport and everything, and your passion is bikes, but what made you think, yeah, you know what, that's for me? And how did you get into the paddock in general through that, like through into Dorner, or whether that be through a contact or
Yeah, it was well, it was a mix of a lot of things actually. I've told the story a couple of times, I think, but I can't remember, I can never remember how much detail I go into, whether I leave things out because like everything, it's a really long. Everything is a long process. It takes time. Nothing happens overnight. But I would say like the actual time when I took direction going towards trying to work in motorsport in general, not necessarily MotoGP. MotoGP was actually off my radar because it just seems so far out of reach. It just seemed like astronomically, like don't even think about it. It's not a possibility. Um, but in 2011, I started contributing to a blog, which was just like on Twitter. A guy called Ollie Rushby had this blog called In the Gravel Again, and he now works for Potski Media, and they have lots of clients like Yamaha UK and that. So he's been a professional in the industry for some years now. But his blog In the Gravel Again, I contributed a singular blog to that. It wasn't that great, but the headline was like about, I think it was about like where MotoGP should go and race, and they should go to places like because I'm really big into geography and socioeconomics and things like that, or I was during college, and which is where I was in 2011. Yeah, 2011, and
A long time ago.
I know, yeah, tell me about it. And I said, yeah, our MotoGP should go to Brazil. Where else are the BRIC countries? What's the R? Russia? Don't know. I, India, and then C, China. I think China. Like you go to things like the BRIC countries because they're like booming economics. It wasn't a very good article, but it got me a bit more of a presence to talk to people on Twitter, to talk to people like David Emmett and Ian Wheeler, who's a very respected press officer, works for Yamaha communications coordinator now. And I would just like always chip in my opinion on with those guys on Twitter, and then eventually this Twitter account called Paddock Chatter came around. I then became a part of that because the guy who started it, Tim Teal, decided to. He was like, "Oh, it's too much to keep up talking about racing news all the time," and he used to do these things called Twinterviews. So we would carry out interviews with people on Twitter. Managed to do Randy DePunier's ex-wife Lauren Vickers first, and then she sort of like helped elevate the following to about 4,000 followers. And I think that's when I took it over along with a guy called Dave Neal and then Alana Fellows. Dave now works doing stuff in BSB with Rich Energy Racing. He's got a podcast too. Then Alana works for BT Sport now after being in World Superbikes. Worked on Paddock Chatter for quite a few years, got it around to about 25,000 followers, all of us together. Then when MotoGP did this influencer, inverted commas, program called the MotoGP Buzz Project to basically promote this subsection of the MotoGP.com website sponsored by Motul. They needed influencers to promote the hashtag MotoGP Buzz, so they asked Paddock Chatter to attend the British Grand Prix in 2015, to have paddock passes, do some special guest things. They got a safety car ride, pit lane access, take some photos, go to Parc Ferme when the race was won. How cool was that? And so I got invited to do that because Alana was already working for Paddock Chatter under a media pass because she was also working for a local paper, some like Gloucestershire paper about Danny Kent. So I was the one who managed to get this guest pass, like guest of Dorner, and I was like guided by one of my future bosses around like pit lane, going to see things, getting photos. I think all the photos are still up on the Paddock Chatter Instagram page, which is now like not used anymore. Let me just see. Actually, is it still live? Yeah, it is.
That's a
Still
good
there.
race to actually go to as well. The 2015.
Yeah. Oh, mate, look, this. You guys can see on camera. People listening can't see it, but I got that photo of Rossi and Petrucci having a hug in Parc Ferme. So if people listening go and type in Paddock Chatter, you can see the photos from there, right? And like I got a really cool one of Rossi. It was one of his last victories. Nice. Like really, yeah, nice shit. And basically the guys at Dorna were looking for a new social media editor, and they were like, "Oh, would you ever consider moving?" First, I was like, "Not really. I don't want to move to Barcelona and work in an office." I didn't really know how feasible it was. I was 21, just out of uni, and then I said yes. Eventually, I said yes, I would like to, and then they're like, "Right, send us your CV." So I sent my CV, got an interview, went over to Barcelona to the office to do like a trial weekend when it was the 2015 Aragon GP. Got the job, and then just started. Did the flyaways where I was doing text updates for the app. MotoGP.com app. Back then, they had actual text updates. This was on like
It's
in 2015.
this is 2015, not even that long ago, but it
I know
feels
how crazy it feels.
ancient.
I mean, already that was a big bet. I think they knew at the time, like we shouldn't really be doing this, but they had to be because still like it was still quite the traditional modes of communication at that point. They were like, you have to do text updates still. I was like, guys, no one's listening or watching these fucking text updates about the fucking race. Like, and eventually got through to him. And because at one point when I did those in the flyaways, then I actually moved to Barcelona. And I moved to Barcelona, and my first day was the day after the Valencia Grand Prix 2015. That was my first day at work. Deep end.
That's some day
Wow.
to have as a
Yeah.
first day.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is some, like, deep
so
Baptism
then-
of fire.
I know. Well, I did get to go and watch it in the office because I didn't have TV set up in the house I was living in at the time. So I was like, "Can I come to the office and come and watch?" They were like, "Yeah, sure." Um, and so then like 2016, doing the Twitter updates and things like that. Even some of those first races, I think the first half of the year, I was doing the live tweets, tweeting the updates about what was going on track, and then doing the updates for that bloody app.
I'm pretty sure I
tweeting,
had
like,
the app and just turned all the text updates off. If memory serves me right, I've
Yeah,
had the app
probably.
for years. I'm pretty sure
Were you
if that would have came up, I would have been like, no, straight away.
It's been like, don't need this.
were you
Yeah.
doing a Morse code update as well?
Yeah, but I might as well have been. Yeah, with my third hand, right? So yeah, that's the story of how I basically got into that. Like, kind of like what I say to everybody, like who wants to get a job in motorsports. If you want to get motorsports communications, you need to become a creator of sorts. Back then in 2011 to 2015, being a creator was actually doing those live tweets, doing your opinions, taking photos at races, doing just slightly things which now, like posting a photo with a tweet, back then was revolutionary. Revolutionary. Whereas
even
now
from your story.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, even from your story, like the evolution of social media in the last 5 or 6 years has been crazy, absolutely phenomenal. It's changed so much. It's a totally different landscape now.
Exactly.
Compared
So
to how it was.
that's what I love about people like you guys doing a podcast like this. It's so worthwhile. It doesn't matter if like 200 people listen to it every episode. It doesn't matter if 20 people listen to it every episode. Like putting yourself out there, putting your voice out there, actually doing something is just so important if that's what you want to be doing. Because you never know where it might lead. Remember, I told you I didn't even expect to get and work in MotoGP. Literally never expected it ever. So yeah, worth doing.
Yeah, I've always looked at that the same way. When I was listening to you talk through that, I literally thought of myself like as a kid growing up and seeing all Rossi and Stoner and all these massive guys, thinking, in what world would I ever get in a position to work for anything close to that? And you just summarized yourself. That's how you saw yourself 10 years ago, and then years come by, you're almost questioning, is it worth the move to Barcelona and this and that, and working your way up the ladder to get there. And it is so crazy that you've literally looked at it as though that's impossible. It's like, I do this for this massive company. And it's amazing how, like you say, it's like you don't want to spread yourself too thin. But to think back, if you'd have said to yourself you'd be doing that much now for MotoGP and under I know it's like under Dorna and whatnot, but like still MotoGP, that must be so surreal to think back if you'd have told yourself that in 2011 when you were looking at it in that way of like, that's impossible.
Yeah, I thought I was going to end up in BSB, or actually then I decided I didn't even want to work in BSB. When I left uni, I actually applied for a job as a lifeguard and then actually got rejected from it. I then applied to be events executive at Brands Hatch, where they were like going to offer and they said, oh, you put your estimations of what you think your salary should be on there. So I was like, well, I'd have to move because I live in Southampton with my parents, so I wouldn't move for anything less than 23 grand. And they were like, oh, well, we can't have you then. It's too expensive. We were thinking more like 12. And I was like, you want to pay someone 12 grand? You're joking. Yeah, so that's not, So when at that point I was like, shit, what's going to happen? I just got rejected from a lifeguard. I think I wanted to be a triathlon coach. I was well into triathlon then as well. So I was even thinking of trying to do something like that. Just your local triathlon coach at a random triathlon club and stuff. So yeah, you never know what's around the corner. So just always like doing stuff like this. Always worth keep plugging away.
Yeah.
So I mean, you pretty much answered the one question there, but if you weren't in MotoGP, where do you think you'd be?
Well, I
Working away
decided
at that
now that
lifeguard job.
if I if I left now, I'd go and be a lifeguard. No, my thing now is actually if I left MotoGP, I'd go and be a landscape gardener, just like being outdoors and doing something because that's creative and stuff, and probably some quite good money too. So like yeah, but you know, I mean, who knows? If that I used to work with birds of prey as well actually, so that was like my first love. You probably heard it on
Really?
the
Wow.
yeah, well, that was a voluntary position with like some sort of cash in hand work. Because I was only what 15, 16. Yeah, stopped it when I moved. So I did it like 16 to when I was 21. Bird of prey displays and things like that. So maybe I would have carried that on. Studied a bit more like biology, zoology, and then worked with birds of prey more. That would be something I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So in your role then, do you think we know that Amazon Prime are doing some kind of Drive to Survive-esque series on MotoGP? How do you think that will affect the popularity of MotoGP, and how do you think it will affect how you deal with and view social media and things like that? Because if Drive to Survive has shown us anything, that deluge on that we've seen of fans and people on, say, Twitter who were from Drive to Survive, who've become F1 fans from Drive to Survive, that's really, really increased kind of the viewership and the fan base somewhat. Do you think it'll have a similar effect on MotoGP?
That's a really good question. We talk about this a fair bit. I know some of the people involved. It's really annoying
Can
that
you
they're
shed any
like,
details? Any?
no, because they won't tell me a thing. They're on
Nope.
such strict NDAs. Like I've even had like private coffees with them just to catch up, like about like proper off the
Yeah.
cuff stuff. And I'm like, so go on. What's the most juicy thing you've heard? And he literally just goes, I ain't fucking telling you. I was like, oh. So yeah, they won't say anything at all. So I have absolutely no idea what's been caught. The only thing that I do know is like I see the cameras and things like that. I see them going into basically all the boxes now. I counted up in Barcelona because the company's Spanish based. I saw 6 different teams of camera crews. And then but normally there's around 4, 5-ish. So like it's going to be pretty comprehensive. It's not in terms of the production value, if you care about that sort of stuff, it's not the same cameras they use in Netflix. So like there's no one with
Yeah.
a massive stabilization rig and like a camera there. No.
Yeah.
It's like but like who cares, man? Like there's still going to be some
No.
really cool stories. I don't know. Like I don't know how like I have Amazon Prime, I have Netflix, but I don't know what the distribution of people watching Amazon Prime is. I don't know how much it really affects culture like Netflix does. Is it actually going on Amazon Prime? I guess it is, right? Is that like a public
Yeah.
thing? I
That's.
haven't
I
actually.
think. I think.
So if it goes on Amazon, I know it's well. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be going on Netflix. That's for sure. So if it goes on Amazon Prime, like it will have a massive cultural value. But I don't know. It really depends. I think it depends on it's a real tough one. I like to think it would have a similar effect. I think the stories in MotoGP are any bit as good as F1. I
Yeah.
think something which holds MotoGP back is in terms of so basically what so F1 Drive to Survive basically like took over the world because it really appealed to the American audience.
Mm.
Best thing about that is you've got everyone is a phenomenal English speaker to really
Yeah.
articulate their thoughts
Yeah.
so deeply at such a deep level that they can tell really good stories with it. If MotoGP can do the same, then I don't see why it wouldn't make such a splash
Mm.
in general culture. But F1 has so much resources disposable to
Yeah.
try and make that dent in global culture. They don't just want to be like a big sport. They want to be a part of the global conversation.
Mm.
And that's why it's like if you're looking at a MotoGP versus F1 point of view, That's why Silverstone is really fucking annoying, because not only do they have the
Yeah,
stories, they also had the actual racing down to the wire, and like first lap
yeah,
drama and last lap drama was like amazing. That is the perfect recipe to break into like global culture. Um, and yeah, MotoGP should have the same, but will they? Will the with the interviews and the storytelling and everything like that? I like to think it will be able to be told in a similar way, and the communication will be articulated, um, thusly that it will have the same impact as F1. I mean, that would be freaking phenomenal, wouldn't it?
yeah. I guess we don't know who's going to be taking part in it, or all the teams taking part, or only a few.
I,
Hopefully, like the likes of Rossi are.
mm,
But I guess we'll have to wait and see because, of course, if you're going off Drive to Survive, I think Ferrari and Mercedes kind of didn't participate in the first season.
mm.
So I don't know if there's going to be teams who think actually we're not getting involved, or we'll have to
I
wait
like,
and see. But
well, again, I like to think that because of Drive to Survive, like all the teams would go, yeah,
yeah,
let's do it. You know.
yeah, let's get involved.
The
Yeah.
only thing is, maybe they do, because I saw today, it looked like a similar film crew setup on the Ducati Instagram stories at Misano. So that would be something special too if they can
Yeah.
actually look. I don't know. I mean, don't. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I implore people listening to go and check. But I did look like with the boom mics and then the actual camera equipment
Mm,
setup. It looked like a similar crew over at Misano today with the Ducati riders team building thing. So
okay.
Yeah.
maybe they're actually going to visit them at home and things like that too, which would add another
That's
dynamic and be
really
really
good.
cool. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I guess
definitely.
if Ducati let them have that sort of access, who Ducati are notoriously like, don't come near us, just a bit like Honda and Yamaha, all of them pretty much, apart from Aprilia, who are a bit more open. Maybe that's going to be a good thing.
Okay, so bearing in mind we're a little bit strict on time, so we're going to ask a couple more questions
I
before
don't,
we finish.
no worries.
Um, okay, so I suppose a very important one is, I suppose, because this kind of explains where maybe like the love for MotoGP came from. Who would you say is? I know everyone's going to just go like, who's your like main idol, but is there like a particular like rider, or is there like a certain team, or maybe a specific era with a bunch of riders, or a specific rivalry that made you go, yeah, that for me has tipped it, like Barcelona with Rossi Lorenzo, or is it just a specific rider that you grew up and just loved?
World Superbikes in the late 90s and early 2000s. That was for me. Because there was this YouTube channel that might still be around. I don't know whether Dorna took it down or not.
We can
Called
check.
WSBK Archives. Let's have a look. WSBK Archives had all these like last lap
It is.
battles. Um,
It's still a
is it
thing,
still there?
apparently.
No way. Okay, no one show any of my bosses this this podcast. But seriously, like everyone, it's a freaking gold mine. World Superbikes 1999 teams and riders introduction. Oh,
Wow.
then you got 1999 Misano race 2 recap 11 minutes. Laguna Seca qualifying 1999. 1997 teams and riders introduction. No shit. In my business and communications classes when I was 16, I would literally
Wow.
not pay attention at all. I'd choose the computer that was facing away from the teacher and I'd just watch these videos all freaking day. You know, watching Slight, Fogarty, Keeley, Troy Bayliss, Colin Edwards, Ben Bostrom particularly, he was cool as they get. Um, that was my era. But I never went to World Superbikes until, how old was I? Did I go? I went in Silverstone 2003 when Neil Hodgson was winning because it was always so expensive. I always went to British Superbikes. So Neil Mackenzie, Steve Hislop, then Steve Plater, then Greg Lavia were all my heroes growing up. So those guys, nothing to do with MotoGP, just those guys.
Yeah. You absolutely nerding out there gives me kind of the impression that what I think Matt looks at me like when I sit there going, look at this, going through all the videos past like 2003 and 4, and even before that. Before, like you said earlier, like I show Matt like different riders and races before I was born, and Matt's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I'm like, no, check it out. And I wasn't even
Yeah,
born when it happened, but
it's funny. I was having I had this conversation with my other half the other day about like some people get really sort of arsy about respecting the past and things like this. Like there's sort of a notion, particularly in like the F1 community, you find on Twitter, they're like, oh, if you don't know this race and this driver from like the 90s, 80s, 70s, you're not a real fan if you don't know that story.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Like, that's not, that doesn't make you any less of a fan. But I tell you what, like, if I'm telling you about these things, it's because I think, given that we have this shared interest, you would enjoy that. But I don't think
Yeah.
you're obligated to then watch it. Just, hey, if you get some spare
Yeah.
time, this is well worth watching, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Mhm.
that I think
Definitely.
you've resonated what every real motorsport fan sees that and goes
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
you just said, copy and paste. Like I might just clip that and reply to everybody I see on Twitter doing it, and just be like, "Get the fuck out of here."
There you are.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It
Yeah.
doesn't make you any less of a fan, and don't let anybody tell you that. We all enjoy it the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for my last question, you are an avid bird person.
Yeah.
So can you please rate my bird?
10 out of 10. Oh my goodness, what breed is it? I don't
Wow.
know.
He is a Myers parrot.
A Myers parrot. Has he been sat there the whole time?
My wife went and got him about 5 minutes ago.
I love
He's a big
it.
fan.
That's
He's
so
heard about you.
cute.
I've
That is
had him 21 years.
no
I got him when I was
way.
10 years old.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Crazy.
and I bet he
He
absolutely
will
loves you, doesn't he? And probably shits on your
he
shoulder.
will sit here and be an asshole for the rest of the episode.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. I think, do you know what? I think it'd be a great spin-off YouTube series, like his reactions to like things, or him basically sat in front of a camera, but you give
Yeah.
him a voiceover and get him to talk through things that have happened in MotoGP. That would be amazing. I'd watch it. You get all your watch time hours from me.
Does the bird think Quattararo should have been penalised for the leathers thing at Catalonia?
Ooh,
Yeah.
controversial.
The bird says, just follow the rule book and you'll find your answer.
Yeah. To be fair, as soon as we knew that you were coming on, Matt, like our Matt was like, "I am getting the bird on no matter what," and I was like,
Yeah.
If there's going to be one person to bring the bird on for the podcast, you know, we see it all the time on Twitter and whatnot. Like I think there was something at Assen where one of the cameramen picked up like a really small bird in the gravel trap, and I saw it before you retweeted it, and I was like, Matt will retweet this 100%.
Yes.
Matt
Yeah.
Dunn will retweet
Do you know,
this.
I find something hilarious with my Twitter following, because I don't really have any followers. I don't do any putting in my bio of what I do and things like this. I also do it as a bit like a test of like, do people actually give a shit about what I say? And so sometimes I get a couple of new followers, and then I often get so many unfollows, because clearly people like would hear me on the commentary and go, "Oh, Matt's a commentator. I'm going to follow him on Twitter for MotoGP insights." And then the only insights they get is me retweeting about if there's bird life on the world feed, or if I see like some cute bird pic, meaning actual feathered birds, not misogynistic women comment, on like some RSPB nature reserve in the UK or some falconry centre. If I see on there, I retweet it, and then they just go, "This is what I signed up for. Unfollow." You know, and I'm like, I didn't advertise this.
Brilliant.
I didn't advertise MotoGP updates. I just advertised that this is my personal channel, and that's what I like. So it sits there very comfortably, very chilled.
Mhm.
That is
He's
so
enjoying
awesome.
it.
Yeah, absolutely loving it.
He's like he's just heard you say that. Then he's like,
Yeah.
"You what?"
I'm just like,
Let's have
yeah,
a-
damn right. Yeah, exactly.
Everyone listening
Cool.
is probably
Well,
like, "What's going on?"
yeah, exactly. Do you guys get many comments back and things like that? Do people engage and stuff like that? We'll have
we get a bit of engagement. We get some
Awesome.
feedback and questions and stuff.
Awesome.
One final question from me, which should be a quick one. It might be
don't
tough,
worry.
but so what is your favourite bike livery of all time?
Oh God.
Oh my God! How could you ask such a question?
Because he likes to
It's on the
start
spot,
wars between
but-
Bono and I.
I want to take your opinion on this.
If he
I
says the
think-
one
That's a no
livery I
take.
love, I swear to God, this is going to
Do you know what? I actually think it is probably the Sterile Garda Yamaha Ben Speeds 2009 World Superbikes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
favorite GP livery? Out of interest,
That's a really
it
good
yellow by
question.
any
I don't
chance?
think he'll say it. But no.
The one that was never properly used. It was the Yamaha 50th anniversary yellow
yeah.
one with the speed
Oh.
blocks that Rossi rode at Goodwood, and then I think they had Nakasuga that year in Motegi on it.
Yeah.
That one.
Quite close to mine, to be fair.
What was
yellow,
yours?
I know
Go
it's
on.
exactly my favorite, like actual livery, not like an anniversary or anything like that. Is the Camel 06 Yamaha, like, you know,
very
the
nice.
the Rossi one. Yeah. Oh, thank
Very
you.
Marmite.
I'm glad you like it because Matt absolutely
No.
hates it, and we've had
Really? Okay.
numerous wars on Twitter over it. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the all yellow. It's just it's not, like I live in Pittsburgh, we're black and gold, but just something about all yellow really just like
Well,
doesn't like.
I think your little bird friend there said, "What is it you
Yeah,
don't like about
he was
yellow, big
telling me
fella?"
to shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, have you not seen my head? It literally has yellow all over it, and you don't like yellow? Get out of here.
He's showing us.
He looks
But
like he's even got yellow
Brilliant.
speed bumps on
whenever,
his wings.
yep, that's how you know he's a male.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, well, there you go. I learned something new. What was the breed again? Just tell me so I can remember it.
Myers Parrot,
A Myers parrot.
Myers parrot.
Meyers.
I love it. That is so cute. What a
Yeah,
what a
whenever
little-
there was a post on Twitter that started that whole debate, and I've only been following MotoGP for the last 2 years.
Okay. Awesome.
So it's weird
You
because
really
I'm the
dove in
oldest. I'm the oldest, but I've only been following for 2 years. Bono is the youngest and is basically our MotoGP encyclopedia.
He was born with a VR46 shirt on, so
Pretty much. But
awesome.
So when I got asked, I basically could go like look at the 2 years that I've been following. I'm like, what's the Patronus bike? I mean,
To be fair,
it's a
that is an
beautiful
old time.
blend of colors.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Red Bull guy, but I mean, if a Red Bull is the same in every category, whether it's F1, it's MotoGP, it's dirt bikes, they're pretty much all the same. It's the same blue and orange, and where the Patronus bike is this like blend of black and teal and silver and a little bit of red in there.
It's nice. Yeah, no, no. To be fair, I think the current grid has literally got probably one of some all-time great liveries on them. To be honest with you. Like,
yeah, I'm a big fan of the Ducati, the current Ducati and last year's Ducati. I really like it.
Yeah, with the black and everything else too. Yeah. I wasn't too fussed about like the 2016 Ducati with the red and white so much. I mean, having said that, I loved that back in the day, superbikes and things like that. The Ducati 999 in race trim was probably one of my favorite bikes ever. It was really awesome.
Yeah. Okay, quickly then, before we finish, from me, Matt, I want your dream team. So you get to pick 2 riders. They can be from any era.
Oh my god!
And you get to pick
from any era?
one bike. Yeah, one bike, and you can choose a livery. Like that is, you don't have to go with, you can go for a bike for its sound maybe, or for performance, and then pick a livery. And then if you really want, you can pick a principal if you like. You don't have to, but mainly just those.
Okay, principal as well. Brilliant. Right,
if you want.
And your race mechanics as well.
Whenever I ask riders, like, I've got a quick fire question for you, and they go, "That's not a quick fire question." I say, "No, the answer is quick once you eventually get there." Now I know what they actually mean. But bike without question is the Ducati 1098 superbike. I'll enter that in the MotoGP class because it's just the best bike ever. The livery would be the Ben Speed Sterogada Yamaha livery. The riders would be.
What do you just go for an all superbike thing and be like, but we'll make it GP?
Yeah. No, I'll pick GP riders. This is really bringing out of me how much I actually love historic world superbikes. Because I don't watch it now, because otherwise it's too much bikes. Like I have to have a weekend off, so I don't actually. I pay attention to who wins, but I never watch it. So who did I really love from GPs? I'd have Casey Stoner on that.
Oh, of course.
That'd be really cool. Yeah, Casey Stoner. And I'm very conscious that this is like an audio platform, and so I can't wait too long with silence, because otherwise people are just going to go.
No, don't worry. We did a game. We did a game last week.
Maybe you can jump down. Yeah,
we did a game last week where Matt was asking me. He gave me 3 clues of a rider from like the mid '80s and was like, "Guess." And I was just sitting here.
And it was just silence. She was sitting there.
Yeah, you got to try and chop out some of the silent bits.
If you take forever, I can clip it. It's fine.
Do you know what? Let's move him up. Let's move Pedro Acosta from Moto 3. And I've been watching that in 1098 with Casey Stoner.
Costa and Stoner, Jesus.
Just because there's like a few people I've been, there's a couple of accounts or something I've been watching. Oh, it's the bad MotoGP memes one, I was flicking through the Instagram page with them today, of theirs today, just to look at some of the memes and have a laugh. And they're obsessed with Pedro Costa, so he's on my mind. So let's say Casey and Pedro.
Wow,
What a
I
pair
would.
that
I'd
is.
pay anything to. I'd pay anything to see that battle on track.
Yeah. But let's actually put it in real, like not him now, like him in 3 years' time. Let's put him together with Casey
scary.
Stoner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's scary to
Which
think.
Casey Stoner?
I was-
2011,
I was about to
2007?
say, yeah,
Two-
which Casey
yeah.
Stoner would you go for? Would you go
2000
for 07 or?
2011, Casey, when he's a bit more
Yeah.
mature. And what, still only bloody what? Like he was 26?
25, I think he was. 24 or
Fuck's sake.
something.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I mean, what the
26, something
fuck?
like
I mean, you're like Josh, you're 27 now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like,
Mhm.
Kate. By the way, Casey retired with tens of millions in his bank at our age. Think about it.
It's a
Like,
crime.
Are you kidding?
I'm-
What the
I've
fuck?
still
I thought
got
that was
years
well
to
off.
go. I've still
Yeah,
got some
exactly.
years
I'm
to go,
31.
yeah,
I'm screwed.
It's all right. You just need to jump out of a plane, then you're like Johan Zarco.
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
That's a great team, though. That's
Mhm.
brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, pretty random, mate. But hey, oh no, I appreciate you giving me the memories of some classic World Superbikes. I really enjoyed that.
It's
You're
what we
welcome.
strive for around here.
Awesome.
So yeah, I think that'll do it for today's episode. Like I said before, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, follow us on Twitter, and I think we're gonna let Matt do the outro since he's the one who came up with it.
The
So
outro.
with that,
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, then make sure actually in addition to the 5-star reviews, make sure you actually tell them what is your dream lineup then ever in
Ooh.
MotoGP. What is your dream lineup? Favorite rider could be from any year. You could even chuck a road racer in there. Someone from America, AMA. So
Ooh.
put Cameron Bobier in your team. It doesn't matter.
geez.
Decide who you want, and that's that. Because then also tweet me it as well. Because then I'll actually converse with people. Because then drum up some awareness for the podcast too as well. A bit more can't hurt.
I'm already brainstorming.
Nice.
Bono's gonna pull names out we've never even heard of.
Yeah, most likely. So,
Awesome.
well,
So-
thank you for being on the show anyway. It's
Hey,
really
guys-
Thank you,
appreciate
Matt.
this.
That was really, really good fun. I would, I'd love to come back at some point. Might need
Well, yeah,
a bit
to have
of
you
time at
back.
the moment. I need to have a bit of a holiday first, and then maybe like
Yeah,
see how the season actually gets on now. The old, how the situation is in the UK. So let's see what races we actually do get, and maybe we could
Yeah.
do like a season review one or something like that. Eh?
yeah,
have
we
a
was
bit
thinking
more-
that and inviting you on for a mini season review. That'd be brilliant, really.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll make sure I give it a retweet and whatever when it and to help you guys
Brilliant.
out. So
Thank
you.
Yeah. Make sure if people comment, always reply to them, eh? Or actually, it's a good thing
Yeah.
actually, which I don't do enough of, mainly because we got really out of sync of publishing the episodes literally the day before. We travel on Wednesdays, and the episodes get published on Wednesdays, and then we got really out of sync, and so the episodes get published on Wednesday. We're the next one on Thursday. We've already said on that one that's been published, leave your comments below and we'll read them out next episode.
Yeah,
We don't freaking do it. So actually try and make sure you actually do that. If one person leaves a
Yeah.
comment, freaking read it out in the episode and get them to like message a friend about it because it really, really helps. So that'd be something if I can help you guys out. Actually, tell you what, if you also try and leave some quick fire question for last on the breaks, and I'll try and give you a shout out as well. All right.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we'll get that done, definitely.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. Right,
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna have a shower and go to bed, and let me know when it comes out. So all right.
Yeah. We'll do.
We'll quote tweet you in the whenever we release it on Twitter.
Rad. Can't wait. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you
See you
for being
later.
here.
That's one, Matt.
Bye.
Bye.
So with that, keep the throttle pinned.